She'll always.
What I do?
Every month, I'm like, oh, next month I'm gonna.
There it
wear my
goes.
suit.
It's coming. It's powering up. Says it's thinking. Now loading, still loading. Still loading.
I
Still
think we could do
loading.
the pledge of allegiance and it'll catch up.
And I think if we need you as a backup, don't we video this? I mean, it records, right? You did. So you got the backup.
Okay, it's working.
Actually, I
So,
think we-
let's see, it is October 2nd at 6:05. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Any additions, deletions? Amendments? I do have one note if, I was just looking under announcements.
Yes.
It says November 15th.
That was a little bit of an error. as
Okay,
far as-
so it's the 20th.
It is.
Okay. Okay,
The 6th and the 20th.
the 6th and the 20th.
Fifth and the 20th.
6th.
6th and the 6th. Apologize.
Anything else? Okay,
With the adjustments of the dates of our November meetings, I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
all in favor?
All right,
Aye.
I'm sorry, I'm totally did not hear what you said. Who's the?
The 6th and the 20th of November.
Oh, like,
The dates.
The usual, like what? it
Yeah.
was.
Yes,
Okay,
it's just,
no, sorry, or they have it, okay,
they're just the wrong dates on the, but
okay,
6th and the 20th.
all good, thank you.
Okay, any community comments? Doesn't look like we have.
No one signed up.
No one signed up. So Sherry.
Thank you.
Okay. Last month, the question was asked to me, the difference between the contingency and unappropriated ending fund balance. And I think I kind of explained that then, but just to briefly go back over it, operating contingency is a reserve, so to say, that we can, with board approval, take out in the year that we're working in if we have an emergency. Unappropriated ending fund balance cannot be used until the next budget season if it's budgeted. So it's money set aside to anticipate needs until we start getting funding the next year. So anyway, the question was also asked is that whether or not we are required to have an unappropriated. And we are not required to have one. We just think it's fiscally responsible to keep some amount in there, so that's my story.
That's my story.
Are there any questions about that? Got that all cleared up?
So,
I think yesterday Amy sent an email out to all of you from the auditors to do a questionnaire. If you haven't checked your email, they need to get that questionnaire back soon.
Well, those questions were, I mean, like if you were aware or concerned about fraud, there wouldn't already be activity happening as a board. I mean, it's.
Or I wouldn't say anything.
It's just like, come on.
Yeah, they're a little silly, I guess. It's
Yeah, that
diligence,
was-
I don't
Sorry,
know.
that was
I already
like
did
not-
it, and sent it in, and that was, I agree, it was, didn't make.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you mean we should
Like
do
fraud
that?
happening?
Yeah, if you can.
Well, yeah, but
They're
I'm not
they're
gonna do
wanting
it.
it back. They want to
Okay.
see that.
They just wanna
we are
know.
Causing duress and making board members not report, but when they know something's wrong.
Got it.
Okay, that's all I have there other than the financial reports, but I want to tell you I do know that September only has 30 days. I do. The reports are dated September 31st,
Fair enough.
but I was just ignoring the first and pretending that was the second through 31st. I forgot to change. the
Oh,
different
yeah.
days.
As long as we get to keep Halloween, it'll be. Okay. Go ahead.
Are there any questions about either of the reports?
I guess my question would be about, because right on here, it says contingency less is a negative 200,000. What does that? I'm looking at
I
the,
think I might have forgot to change the budgeted amount. Good catch, Lisa. You should have caught that last one. Good. The budgeted amount should be the 1,440,000, and then that would not be.
so we'd actually have a remaining amount. Then,
Yeah. Hey, you've got me. Wondering what's going on. Okay, I will look at that.
okay,
But,
It looks like
I
it's
think
the
the
adopted budget versus the year-to-date budget
is.
is where the 200,000 is coming
Yeah.
from.
It is, the adopted budget was 1,440,000, and I just didn't change it on this form. But our actual amount
is the
is
same.
the same, yeah. That's our
That should be-
anticipated amount.
Okay, and we're already at zero for the
Well,
year.
Yeah, we just hold that, that's just our savings account, so
Okay.
that's why the year to date is supposed to be the same as the budget.
Got it.
So where it says contingency
It's a very, yeah,
at the very end, that number should be what?
zero.
In the remaining budget, it should be zero. The adopted budget should read 1,440,000.
And the plan reserve is 400, so we have between the two,
Yeah.
1.88.
Got it. Okay,
Thank you for seeing that. Get that fixed. Next month's gonna look a lot better. Are there any other questions?
I don't think I had. Thanks. Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you.
Hey, administrative reports. Would you like to go first? Would you like to go first?
No, I know
What a gentleman.
the standard that's coming after me is probably quite a bit higher than what I'm gonna set, so I thought I'd. So today, this month, I just want to give a kind of an update on kind of what is not like a final set in stone piece for us. We're sort of finding ourselves a little bit more further into the year in progress on some of our goals than we would be normally on account of just data coming in. And I don't know if we talked about this too much last year, but one of the outcomes of the work that we were doing last year was trying to figure out what are more data points that we can lean on other than state testing, because as we know, the state testing piece is kind of it's just not a super solid point for us on account of participation rates being somewhat low for juniors. And so two of the things that we've done, one of the things that we already implemented last spring, but we'll continue to do this year and hopefully do it a little bit earlier this year, is 10th grade pre-ACT testing. And then the other piece is iReady, which up until now hasn't historically been something that gets used a lot at the high school level. And so we're implementing that this year, but we don't have our initial round of data back in order to be able to sort of gauge where we want, what we think will be reasonable growth. And what we've actually decided is that rather than doing 3 rounds, we were going to do a beginning, middle, and end. What we're going to do, and I talked to Tim about this a couple days ago, is we're going to actually use our 8th grade end of the year iReady data as the base for our freshmen, and then we're going to test at the end of term 1 as our midpoint, and then again at the end of whatever it's not technically term one, it's at the end of the A section of math and language arts. So some kids have it term one, some kids have it term two. And then again, at the end of the B term, so we'll have 3 data points. And it's a little bit of a lift, not just logistically, but also conceptually for teachers. You know, who are, you know, at the high school level tend to be super consumed by their content. And so to zoom out for a day or two, you know, it's took a little bit of convincing, but I really truly believe that, you know, especially with like, you know, like we talked about with the state testing piece being, state testing for us feels a little bit like a autopsy situation because we haven't had any 9th, 10th grade data leading up to it. And so now I feel like this will give us a little bit more of a sense of where kids are at and where we're moving them. And keeping it going from 9th grade after 8th, they already know it's just part of the drill. It's what they do. Whereas the state testing, they take 2 years off and then have to re-engage. And so it's a little kind of, yeah. So that's just kind of an update on that piece. And we'll, I think by, well, for the November meeting, I could give an update. It'll probably look a lot like numbers that we had from Tim last year. And then by the end of probably the first week of December, we'll have the data for this year.
But you guys won't be here for that because you'll be at the law conference.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
Yes.
So it might,
So in January.
well, or we can always circle back when we've got all three of them done. But my principal's advisory will be kind of sinking our teeth in our next meeting into that initial data. And then talking about what we think might constitute a reasonable amount of growth for years worth of math at Sisters High. So
The enrollment is like 20, it goes from 441 to 421.
I would just say, remember that the enrollment was before we had the 10-day drop. Our first enrollment snapshot was before we removed any kids for 10-day drops, right? It was the first week of September. And so we have to wait 10 days before we can drop kids if they haven't pulled themselves out for non-attendance. So this is really the adjustment, and I'll talk about this when I report that. It's really the adjustment of kids that just didn't show up,
Yeah.
right? That have maybe moved, didn't ask for records requests, and then finally we had to drop them from enrollment, so.
Okay,
right, yeah, it's not uncommon for a kid to have, you know, moved and then we just haven't received the request from where the district that they moved to, or heaven forbid that they haven't been enrolled somewhere. So yeah, but then they get no show after those 10 days. So yeah. But overall, the high school's up, you know, independent of overall district numbers. The high school's up because we got that big freshman class that came in this year. So yeah, I'm excited about that. We had to kind of shift some things on a assignment front for some teachers, but we're making it work. Other question for the high school?
Anyone?
All right, thank you so much.
All right, I'm Ron Clifford. If possible, thank you, sir. I've got a quick little PowerPoint. First of all, good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing good. I am going to just kind of go over our school-wide goals. Each year, as a teacher leadership group, we set goals, and we usually try to set one around prepare, one around belonging, and one about inspiring kids. This comes from our teacher leadership group. So that said, let's just roll through this, unfortunately. Okay, prepare is definitely one of our main goals as a school district to get kids ready for their next step, whatever that might be. Who are the people that are in charge of that? This is our instructional team. Beginning of the year, we like to take, I'm a coach, so I always like to take a team picture before we start. So that's our team for this year. That's our new shirts. And it's been kind of fun because now this is our 3rd year with shirts, and so you can watch the progression. It's kind of fun. So we changed our goal a little bit this year. The past few years, we've focused on reading, and we focused on reading because it's easy to address across the curriculum, whether it's science or health or math or language arts. You can address reading. We've had some great gains and really made some great progress, but the teaching staff said, let's switch it up and let's try some math. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we looked at the strands in iReady that you can, because we want to be pretty focus, and we decided to pick a strand rather than just math in general. And they picked measurement and data. Again, for the reason that we, across the curriculum, you can measure and look at data. And specifically within this, they're really looking for kids to be able to collect, organize, and interpret numerical information. You can do that in health, you can do it in PE, you can do it in science, you can do it in language arts. And so because of that, that's going to be our goal this year. The number 44 came from our initial beginning of the year data collection with iReady. They took that on the second Friday of school, September 14th-ish. And that was our initial data point. And we look to have a 16% increase for the year. Some action steps to help get us there. I'll go through these really quick, and then if you have questions at the end, we can hit them. But we're going to continue to focus on high yield instruction. It's something that we've done for the past 3 years, and we're going to continue it. We're going to work on differentiation. One of our first PDs out of the gate in October is going to be from our special ed department about differentiating for kids and how they learn in different ways. We are really working at trying to refine our intervention classes. These are for students who typically are below grade level. How do we bring them up? And we've been continually looking at how do we get better at this? What kind of curriculum are we using? How are we teaching? What's the MTSS? Like, how do we figure out who's going to be in there? How do we figure out when they're out? So we worked hard in the master schedule to make sure that we have it across the grade levels, and we're working with some team teaching models. Rather than have one teacher working with 5 and another teacher working with 7, we're putting them in the same room to try to develop some synergy. We're going to continue with our goal setting. We are really working at engaging parents. I'll talk more about that in a little bit, not just at the end of the year, at the end for the kids to show what they've done, but to engage them at the beginning of the year. And we're going to continue our after school homework help and specifically math tutoring. And as I walked out to talk to the football team tonight, I walked by the library, and there was about probably 18 kids in there working on homework. A good number of them football players. Yeah. I'm like, where's everybody? They're in homework. Okay, good. And I guess I didn't put it on here, but one of the things that we worked at doing a little bit differently is athletic grade checks typically in the past have been every 3 weeks. And this year we're doing them every week, so that we don't get to that point where, okay, a kid's so far behind, they're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And we've been, first few weeks seems to be helping. 18 kids is probably the most kids I've ever seen in a homework help. But we'll see how it goes for the year. I'll keep you updated. Okay. And we have a new math curriculum. The big idea is math. So that's going to be a learning curve for our teachers and for our kids, but hopefully it'll be for good. Belong is something that we've been working on again for the past 3 years. Again, getting kids connected to each other and to adults. We work hard to try to make sure everybody knows each other. One of the things you'll know about me is I like to stand in front of school at the beginning of the day and greet kids. Last year at the end of the year, a couple 5th graders started doing it just for fun. They just would stay at the door and greet everybody. And I've always taken great pride in trying to get the 8th graders to lead. And I didn't see anything. And this year, this group of 8th graders is sitting in front of school and greeting kids. I'm like, yes, getting the 8th graders. So this is a group of 8th grade boys that have just been standing out there, and that's a 6th grader going in, giving them a thumbs up. So with that said, kind of our goal here is we have this belong period where the 8th graders and 7th graders, 6th graders are together. Over the past years, it's been 1 time per week on Fridays with assemblies or with clubs or things that are going on. It really worked out to be maybe once a month. And the feedback that we got from the teachers and from the kids are, I don't get to know who's in my belong class very well. So really, if we're trying to have deep connections across the grade levels, we need to meet more. And so this year we tweaked it, and now they're meeting to start the day. The first 20 minutes of the day, they're meeting 2 days a week in their belong, and then 2 days a week with a grade level homeroom. Initial feedback from teachers are, it's a great soft start to the day. The kids get their planners out, they make sure everything's in order, they talk about anything that's coming up for the day. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things, but it's been a great soft start in getting kids ready and prepared for the day. So some action steps, again, keeping these really small with a ratio of 18:1. Most of them are really closer to 15:1 for the teacher. We're increasing the frequency like I talked about. we're gonna continue to work in groups of 3 for mentoring, an 8th grader, a 7th grader, and a 6th grader. And focusing on mentorship. And another new thing this year is our counselor and our advocate coordinator, which is Rob Jensen, are in charge of pushing the lessons out for this 0 period so that the teachers aren't designing them. It is on Monday handed electronically to the teachers so they don't have to prep for another class. And we've had some amazing help from other teachers like Judy Fleming sitting with that. We've been helping quite a bit with how that has rolled out. And it really has been a team effort, and they're starting to do some things where I'm just like, they're taking it and like running with it, and been kind of exciting to see. Yeah, that's belonging. Inspire, our last goal. This comes around getting kids empowered to kind of own their learning and having some inspiration in that. We've got kids that take on about all the books, we've got kids that are big gamers, but we've got kids with a lot of different interests. So how do we continue to inspire kids at Sisters Middle School? And so our goal this year actually seems a little bit weird because builds in the parent input. It has to do with getting our parents to conferences. So I told you at the end of last year, we did our student-led conferences. It was the first one I'd ever done. And I think we came in just under 80%, like 78% of our families attended. It was pretty high. So we set goals for our fall conferences this year, we'll have 85% attend, and for our summative at the end, 90%. There's just some kids whose parents just can't. And we'll do a conference with that student, but sometimes it might be with me or with the counselor or another trusted adult in their life. But our goal is to try to get 90%. Some action steps. We're going to do 2 student-led conferences, one at the start of the year, one at the end. We're going to incorporate something called Portrait of a Graduate. I won't get too into that, but it's kind of like, what's an 8th grader look like when they walk out of our school? We spent a year developing that last year, and I'll talk about that maybe at a different board meeting. Our counseling department is going to organize 2 parent nights, one focused on academics and one on mental health, to try to engage our parents. The Sisters Middle School students are going to set goals in September related to their GPA, iReady growth, attendance, and citizenship. Hopefully one of those will inspire the kids. And then the big goal here is getting the parents to understand iReady. Because a lot of them are like, what does it even mean? What's a 425 even mean? So really spending time with parents and getting them engaged and getting them up to speed on iReady. And then finally, it's adjusting our conferences so that we have 2 evening sessions. So not only we're doing twice a year, but when we do them, we'll have 2 sessions in the evening. In the past, since I've been at the middle school, we've had just 1 evening session. That tends to be the time when like you get most of your parents there.
Yeah.
So we're restructuring a little bit to do 2 evenings, then a whole day as well. And those are the Sisters Middle School goals for 23 or 24, 25. 23, 24, 25. Any questions for me?
What's big idea math?
Good question. So we adopted a new curriculum this year called Big Ideas, and Joan helps lead our math school or district in mathematics, and they spent a good year researching different curriculums. The middle school hadn't had a new curriculum in a while, and so they really put a couple of programs through a pretty intensive process, and they came out with Big Ideas Math. So it includes an online platform, it includes books. I think a group went up to the high school. I delivered them to their library this summer. So it's a new curriculum, a lot of similar concepts, but just presenting it in new ways. So hopefully it starts clicking in kids' brains.
On a personal note, I thought the student-led conferences were really cool.
Awesome.
I didn't know what to expect because I feel like I get a play-by-play after school. Some kids don't talk much, mine talks a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know what else she's gonna say, but it was really interesting.
Good.
And I felt like it was just more insight into what they've been working on and stuff, so it was cool.
Good. And our goal to start the year is that they're going to show you their first iReady scores, their initial grades, and be like, okay, I scored a 425 in math. What's that mean? And at the end of the year, I want to be at a 495. And what's that mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
no
much.
problem.
I think you'll see a lot of alignment and coming down from the middle school to elementary. So,
Thank you.
Sure.
I know.
I'm gonna go to the next. So this is at the end of last year,
Wow.
but this was our last day.
Oh, I'm so glad that this picture.
So we actually had a drone photographer come and take a picture, and then we also had a parent that actually does all of our t-shirts. Came and took pictures, and then Wes also came. So we have multiple images because we just felt like we needed to preserve for history. The final, all staff, all students at the last day of the old building. So, we've had a lot of challenges just in getting up and running. But our team has risen to that, and we're just, starting to kind of get into our groove and get our pace in the new space. Having to shift a lot of things because with bigger space, some things that worked no longer work. You have to kind of give a little bit of allowance of time for travel and things like that. But it's just been, I think, really awesome to be in that new space and to see our kids bringing life to that space, and just what we can do with our students is just exciting. So some of what I'm going to be sharing tonight is kind of connected in some ways to that shift. We have not done our action plans yet, but we do have like our broad picture of where we're headed. So kind of to start out with, I just wanted to make sure all of our belong, prepare, inspire goals are really not necessarily within the academic realm. But I want you to be assured that this is all still happening. And so in the spring, we set goals as a staff, as a school. And so we have public goals, which is all students will grow in math, all students will grow in literacy. That's public. Everyone sees that. We work toward that. Everyone knows what they need to do to grow. Then in May, our grade level teams established their growth goals. They looked at the data at the end of the year last year from iReady. They looked at the growth that their current group of students had made. And then they also looked at the data for the students they're receiving in September. And they set goals for where they wanted the students to be by the end of this school year. So we have those goals set. And now we are in the process. We've just completed the iReady assessments, and the teachers are now going to be sitting in October with students, and they're going to be setting their private goals, kind of like what Tim was sharing of, I got a 400 on iReady and I need to, like a growth goal would be this much, and a goal, stretch goal, thank you, ma'am. I was like, it's another name, stretch goal, which is a 2-year growth. Some kids, may want to do that stretch goal. So with that, then being ready to share at our fall conferences with parents. And that would be our 2nd to 5th grade, really sharing their goals with their parents. Our K1, still more of a parent-teacher, traditional kind of a conference happening. So that's where we are with academics moving forward. It's been exciting to see every year, the year upon year growth that our students are making in math and in literacy, as our teachers just really are excellent at their craft. And I think that really leads me to the next slide. So as we began to consider where we wanted to grow as a school this year, there's some background information that kind of leads into it's not really in goal format, but more of the direction of the work that we want to be accomplishing this year. So kind of to start out with, we have been on a Leader in Me 5-year journey that we had at our school. Leader in Me is a curriculum that completely meets the CASEL standards. But there's now, and when we started 5 years ago, very few curriculum met CASEL standards. People were like, what does even CASEL mean? CASEL is like the seminal
group that really defines what social emotional learning is all about. They have a wheel of 5 areas that you focus on when you're teaching social emotional learning. And they are the place you go if you're looking to build a curriculum or to teach SEL. Now there's 55 programs that meet CASEL standards. So there's a lot of curriculum that's out there. So there have been multiple conversations. One thing with the teachers in our building, which again, they're phenomenal at their craft, is when we get a canned plug and play curriculum, we don't plug and play it. We change it, we modify it, we make it better. And so the conversation really began to be about this leader me plug and play, we are changing everything. So do we really need to be doing this curriculum? We think we can build our own curriculum. We know what the standards are, and we know how to teach those standards. And so we are going to develop and create and do a curriculum that fits what Sisters is about and what our students need. So we have taken, we've stepped away from Leader and Me as the curriculum, and we're now looking at the standards being our curriculum. And what I am giving you is at the back, you can see there's 3 pages that have taken the standards that are the Oregon standards and the CASEL standards, just for you to be able to see. So lower elementary would be K1, middle elementary would be the 2nd, 3rd grade students, and upper elementary would be your 4th and 5th grade students. And there's the 5 areas that are in the wheel for CASEL, which are self-awareness, self-management, relationship skills, social awareness, and responsible decision-making. And so what our teachers are doing is they're taking, this is our standards. This is what our kids need to master at the end of each year. And so this is what we're using as our curriculum. So as we move in and I share some of the work that we're going to be doing in our teams, it's really based on starting with the standards and building a curriculum that's going to fit our students and their needs, knowing that we just have exceptional professionals in our building and they can do this work rather than a plug and play where they're going to change everything anyway. So so when we look at that, there's a place for explicit instruction of the standards. We can't assume that kids know what it means to have relationship skills, to be socially aware, to have empathy, to be able to take perspectives. Those are things that we have to explicitly teach. Then we have to, some kids have lagging skills in those areas, and so we have to do more instruction with that. And then there's responsive instruction. Today on the playground, we had 5 kids that didn't respond the right way and created a problem. So now the classroom is going to instruct a better way of handling the problem that wasn't handled well at the playground. So it's having those 3 components. And so along with that, some of the things that we made agreements on last year in March, as we were kind of looking at the opportunity of moving into the new building, the big primary thing, kind of like the middle school with their belong time, we have a common leadership social emotional learning block each morning from 8:30 to 9 o'clock across the school. Some teachers take it to 9:15, some don't. But what is really a reality, if you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen in an elementary classroom. There's so many competing interests. And so for us, that became the priority, that we are scheduling that time. What that means is that, first of all, it's a soft start. Kids are coming in and they're building community. They're learning ways to connect with other students. And so it's just this nice way to come into school without having the academics hitting you in the face right away. So you're starting with that belong in that community. And then also, because everyone's doing it at the same time, you can overlap grade levels, you can overlap classes. There's a lot of opportunities that opens up. We're pulling our 5th grade student compass team, which is our student leadership team, on Thursdays from their leadership block. And, you know, so they're doing some more in-depth learning that maybe their peers are not doing. The other thing that we agreed on was that we were gonna build buddy grade levels. So we will have, buddy kinder and third grade, they have common recesses, common lunch, they eat in the cafeteria at the same time. First and fourth, second and fifth. We also agreed that on Friday mornings, there'll be a grade level gathering where all the students for grade level gather, celebrate our Outlaw of the Week. And then once a month, we gather in the gym together and we do the whole school, similar to what they do with their weekly grade level gatherings. So building small, bigger, and then the whole community together. And so with that, we have 4 teams. We have 4 teachers on each team. So it makes sense that we have 4 teams. We have Belong, Prepare, Inspire, and then we have Adult Compass. And that started with Leader and me. They call them lighthouses. Well, where's there a lighthouse in Central Oregon? You know, a lighthouse being the image of giving direction, and a compass does that. So we named it a compass because it's providing us guidance and direction. So with that, I'll go to each of the teams. So with Belong, their task, and it's rather daunting, but they're taking and working with their team. And on October 11th, they have 4 hours together, each grade level team, to start this work. They're going to be creating an SEL scope and sequence so that they make sure that at the end of the year, they can check off that they've taught explicitly all of those standards and that they've worked with their students on those. Creating common learning targets, which honestly, these are learning targets. I can, and then it says whatever is on there. But they might want to go more specifically, make it a little more bite-sized chunk. And then I think the big thing is we're looking at how do we build assessments to determine that a student has mastered something. When you're talking soft skills, sometimes that's a little difficult to figure out how you do that. And all of this work based on our SEL standards for the state. This is the Oregon, 2 years ago, there were task force, Lauren and I were part of it for developing the SEL standards for the state of Oregon. Last year they released them, we looked at them, and this year we're required to teach them. So that's kind of the reason there's this focus for us. So with the Prepare team, the other thing that's going on at the elementary school is the science of reading, and I've shared with you quite a few things with that. So we are in the process of piloting a couple programs that we're considering for adoption in the area of literacy. So this team is leading the work in making sure that we're being mindful, thoughtful, looking at barriers, looking at successes so that this can be a successful pilot year and we can make the best decision for our students moving forward. The Inspire team really looking at more of how we connect parents and students within our school culture and our classrooms. So their focus areas on assemblies, spirit weeks, career week, in-school clubs. What are some things that we can do that are going to inspire and engage our students and our parents in us as a school, in our community? Again, kind of building that. And then our Compass team, which is really about leadership, student leadership, looking at student agency. Buddy classrooms, there is a little bit of a new concept. So working at facilitating, how do we make buddy classrooms work? How do we connect the classes? What kinds of activities can they do? Do we need a common schedule? You know, so all of first and fourth get together at this time in this, you know, regularly throughout the year. Also, student leadership opportunities, mentoring. How do we get our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students to own and lead the younger students that they're with? How do we equip them to be on the playground helping the younger students resolve their issues and their problems? So there's a lot of that mentoring and equipping that we want to be looking at. And then like kindergarten kids, they can't always do, you know, they can't move tables. They can't necessarily bring their lunches down or take them back. So what are jobs that the buddy grade level can do to support the kindergarten students or the 1st grade students? So the teachers aren't doing that, that we're giving that work to children and students, building their capacity and relieving some of those things from the teachers' plates. And then finally, looking at student-led conferences, how do we get older buddies to help younger buddies prepare for doing a student-led conference? So again, in many ways, trying to equip and build our older students so that they're helping the younger students and taking things that are, you know, so that the teachers aren't having to carry all of that on their plates. So that's our areas for the elementary school of where we're looking at, and I'll say we're just starting on that. And some of these are pretty big, so they may be ongoing down the road. But excited to see where we're gonna grow and what we can do this year in those areas.
I can remember, it wasn't too long ago that in the news and different things, you'd hear people say, why are they doing all this social emotional learning? They need to be doing math, they need to do, and I, immediately thought, social emotional learning is what's to teach you all the time. So
Yeah.
have it concrete, have it this way, so that not only parents know, but teachers know exactly what it means in each of the different areas.
Yeah.
As I was walking through the school during the open house and went into the kindergarten room, and on the wall there was, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was like, I can't read, but then it said yet, or I can't write my name yet, and such an important concept for kids to understand that. Not yet,
Yes.
but you will.
Yes.
And, but I think this is it's really an important thing for a school to focus on. It certainly doesn't take away from the math and the reading at all.
No.
It enhances it a lot, but for people to wonder why on earth are you spending so much time on that is, I can't understand the question.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it is, if you don't have these skills, it's gonna take away from the academic time.
Absolutely.
Because you're gonna be intervening.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to be getting that. So, helping them be ready to learn so that then they can engage at a higher level in the academics, which is our goal.
Yeah.
So I know we don't do homework, but we should share this with all the parents, because this is homework for parents.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Oh, can the parents?
Good point.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but seriously, like,
Yeah.
this is.
yeah, it really is. And,
This part is very.
and,
important.
and this kind of work, or any of the work, I today just did a presentation to a group of early childhood people on actually the importance of just 5 basic principles of that we need to keep in mind with kids. And if we in the early ages don't do those, then you have so much more work to do, because that's what it comes down to, is what's right here.
Well, the goal is when they go to 6th grade, if they've mastered all of this, then they're gonna be able to face middle school better.
Yeah,
So.
where things get really strange.
This is true.
I've heard really good things about the buddy grade,
Oh, have you?
just about like generally chatting.
Thank you very much.
That's good.
Like really cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Lorna.
Good compliment, but.
Yeah.
My little PowerPoint is quick. I just wanted to update you. I can't even remember what month it was, maybe last spring. I had 2 of our school counselors come and talk to you about the ASCA national model, the Associated School Counselors. Oh, so I just kind of wanted to update you on that. So what they talked to you about was the American School Counselor Association. I hope do you guys remember when the virtual counselors came? Yeah. And really what we're working on is just improving our comprehensive school counseling program. And basically what that means is that our comprehensive school program, K through 12, is based on our ASCA standards, which is the American School Counselor Association. So it all fits together nicely. So that school counselor can provide intervention, support and address the social, emotional, academic, college, career exploration of needs of all students through. And these are all the things that our counselors do. They do classroom instruction, small group counseling, short-term individual counseling, crisis intervention services. And all of those services are delivered in collaboration with staff and families and members of the community, as well as a lot of outside coordination with agencies and therapists. So this is really what we've been fine tuning our counseling program so that we're meeting all of these standards. We have 3 domains, the academic, social, emotional, and college and career. And if you remember last spring, we told you that we were really lucky enough through the High Desert ESD, working with Jim Bowen, who's the director of mental health. He brought in a national ASCA trainer regionally. So we have spent the last 2 years working with this national trainer, all of the school districts in our region. I think Sister School District probably had the best attendance. And we really worked hard. It was a really long process of thinking critically about what we're doing, how we're spending our time, where is our energy going, and is that actually meeting the professional standards, like our nationwide professional standards. And this really like stopped me in my tracks when I looked at this. They call it the multi-tiered, multi-domain system of supports. When you're thinking about academics, we call it NPSS, which is the multi-tiered system of supports. But counselors actually have not only multi-tiered, but multi-domains that were also responsible for data. So if you look on the bottom, there are the 3 domains, which is academic, college and career, and social emotional. And then we do the multi-tiered systems of supports, just like we do for academics. So in the green area, that would be like resources that are delivered to all students. So we would be like helping support the core curriculum, individual student planning for our high school counselors, district-wide activities. And then the yellow is kind of what we would consider like the some kids get this, which is consultation or collaboration. Maybe they're running small groups, maybe they're doing individual counseling or referral to outside resources. And then the red, we're just going to call that the few, which is the really specific referral to outside resources like Deschutes County, and then the individual counseling sessions. So a lot of folks think about counseling as, you know, they're just kind of sitting around talking with kids, and that's really not the case. I mean, we're looking at data, we're trying to figure out where is the need, and then focusing the need across the 3 domains, the academic, the college and career, and the social emotional. So it's a lot. It's a lot to pack into a single day. So the work that we have been doing for the last 2 years through the ASCA model program, there is a national recognition system that you can apply to, and it's called RAMP. And it's like the next step to being kind of like an accredited, recognized school or school district that has recognized ASCA model program. So there are only 7 schools in the state of Oregon. This is a really difficult process. And it feels like, honestly, writing a thesis paper. It is so detailed. There is so much data and such specificity. It's really complicated to actually apply with all of your documents and your data into the RAMP portal. And I mean, there's only 7 schools in the state of Oregon right now that are RAMP certified. They'll just tell you how difficult it is. But we are in the process of applying for RAMP for 2 of our schools.
Wow.
So Sisters Elementary School counselors, we're working on that right now. We're fine tuning with our ASCA professional, and also Sisters Middle School through the Forward Project grant. I'm able to bring Kelsey Jekyll back to actually, because she did all the work, she did all the data, all the documents. So she's helping fine tune the work that she did the last 2 years. And she's also wrapping in our new middle school counselor. But we are applying. It's due, all of the application pieces are due by October 15th, so it's coming right up. Even if you apply, it doesn't mean you automatically get certified. Even at that point, it's a very critical stage. It goes through like multiple reviews and referrals and groups. So it will be a big process, but it would be pretty exciting if we actually could add 2 There was no other school district that had to, so, and if we do get recognized as a ramp school, a ramped school district, it lasts for 5 years, that certification, so.
Didn't have to do it all over again.
Right, yeah, but it's good because we're kind of revamping how we're starting the school year. So initially the counselors are starting off, we're looking at data. And then we're saying like, what is the data telling us? And then based on that, we're like, what groups do we need to create? How do we need to interact with kids? And also where are we spending our time to make sure that our time is actually on counseling duties and you know, where our resources need to be. So it's been a very, it's been difficult, but it's been really rewarding to actually see like, what are we doing and where are we making the impact? So, yeah, so we are applying for ramp. Pretty
Very
exciting, yeah. And that is my last slide.
Love it. Do you guys have any?
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we become eligible for grants or anything for that, or? No, it's just basically, just saying that our counselors are operating like on a professional level. And these are the services based on the national standards that we're providing. Yeah, there's nothing other than recognition, yeah.
5 years.
It's attaboy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm all for bragging rights, that's totally.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure about this, but I had heard that if you do get accepted, that the school counselors go to Washington DC
Mhm.
for a national recognition of.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah, yeah, so,
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah,
Good work, hard work.
yeah.
Good
Any
luck.
questions? Yeah, thank you. So I will keep you posted.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Kurt.
We kind of hit on enrollment and where we are, we're still right in the ballpark of our projections, so, even though we dropped a few students, nothing to be alarmed about. We're right in our wheelhouse, our projection was 1180, so we're right in that ballpark. So I'm not really panicked. I don't have a lot of updates with bond other than to say we've spent our money. I mean, we're at the end of the project, and the money's spent, and you know, when we settle up, there may be a little balance. There's some projects still in the works that we may see a little bit of relief from, but by and large, the money is spent. We have a great facility, and we're excited about that, and there's not gonna be many other projects that we're gonna be doing. Unless we specifically budget for them in the future, so.
We're not over budget, so that's.
Well, no, we're not in the red, but, you know, well, it's debatable, Sherry, right?
$100 extra is $100
Yeah.
extra, you know what I mean? Like,
That's
it's-
exactly right,
Like,
yes,
we're not.
yes, we're not in the red, so there we go. So that's good, and we have this great facility and the completion of that campus, that's fantastic, so. You know, I would roll this conversation, and we did talk about it in the work session. I think, the board. Not really to pose the question here to the board, but I think by the next meeting is what do we want to do with this facility, right? I mean, we are now, I spend a lion's share of my day at the other end of town. The services to serve kids and families, it would be convenient probably for everybody if it was all on one campus. And so I think with the idea that Park and Rec is continuing to move forward with their construction and the move, and anticipating that building being open January, February, that it would really, you know, want to have some discussion with the board about the potential of selling this property, moving on from this property, and looking at moving the district office to the other end of town. So, again, I think that's just we kind of talked about it once, bringing it up again, and I think at some point we need to have a robust discussion on the record and make a decision so we can move forward or not with that process. And, you know, again, I think their projection is to be out somewhere between January and March. And so the sooner, quite honestly, we can get to that in the town, I think the better it would be for the general operation. So just keep that on your radar for probably November.
I feel like we should find out the value of this
I can
building.
get some information around that. I mean, the
So we, yeah,
the reality is it's gonna be based on rezoning because as it is zoned right now, public, it's just like the property sale that we did, the property exchange. It doesn't have great value because it's public land.
Yeah.
Right, it's zoned public land. And so I don't believe typically a sale would be contingent on a rezoning because no one's gonna want. Most people who are interested in buying it would not be repurposing it as a public building. It would be a private business or something else. And so, we'll have to, I mean, that's kind of a conjecture, but we can look at what commercial space is going for, what that looks like and get a bit of an understanding of what that means. So,
You had said at one point, perhaps the city hall might need greater space. I don't know if that conversation has been.
I think that was the Swishers who brought that up, maybe. I think, you know, we have
and the mayor.
had, we've had other private parties come forward after we passed the bond saying, well, if you sell this, because at one point on that bond list was relocating the district office, which we're out of money, so, but the opportunity with the partnership with Park and Rec would allow us to relocate. Anyway, in that, the two people came forward after we passed the bond and said, well, when you get ready to sell, let us know, because we are interested. One was a restaurateur, one was a philanthropist, right? So, you know, we need to start engaging in the process. It sounds like that's direction. I will gather more information for the board and have more to talk about in the November meeting, and we'll make sure it's on the agenda for discussion.
That sounds good.
Let's see, workforce housing, we're continuing our partnership. Again, Feds just dropped the interest rates. We're hoping that spurs. We still have that other opportunity in the Woodlands. We initially had talked about two. We were able to do one last year, so we're still working forward with that proposition. That will be another long-term conversation with the board about district properties and what we want to do in those partnerships. We can come to the table with land as well, right? And make that an opportunity. We have kept about 1.75 acres on the elementary school property that we're not leasing to Park and Rec. So there are opportunities to look at different ways of doing workforce housing that could benefit the district. So again, that will be one of those ongoing conversations just to keep us moving forward on, because it does not appear that the home prices are really dropping at this point. So we'll keep those conversations going. I kind of hit on the collaboration Park and Rec, that's moving forward. And then I would share, you know, you had some great presentations from our leaders on stuff that they're working on and trying to improve. And then I think I would share that Joe, Steve and I went and took a field trip up to a school called Gibson Eck High School up in Washington. And it's a big picture learning school is what it's called. It's based on student-based internships, so student interest-based internships. Now, I will say that there's some things we gleaned from it. There were a couple things when they started, they said, well, we have a waiver from the state for hours and we have a waiver from the state for credits. So it's as much non-traditional as you can get. However, it made us think we have some great place-based learning opportunities for kids already structured into our school system. How might we be able to look at what they're doing and create different opportunities for our kids that combine a little bit of traditional school with interest-based learning? And so I think it was a really good trip for us to look at how do we keep serving kids? How do we make our programs better? Saw some really neat programs up there connected to the place that they live. They're at the end of a fish run, so they had some really good connections with the Fish and Wildlife. That was probably the highlight for me, was that visit and the mentorship that took place with some of the students. So I think that continues our goals of how do we just keep looking to improve and connect. Additionally, just so it's on the board's radar, we are in our 2-year deeper dive for integrated grant information. So we'll be involved in that process throughout the year. As we go, we're also looking at revamping our mission vision because it's been pre-COVID and kind of rolling through COVID. And so we want to reevaluate. We do not anticipate moving away from the belong, prepare, and inspire buckets. but what do the sub goals look like? How do we move forward with those? So we're reevaluating that, also connected to the integrated grant, because our mission vision should align to the integrated grant and our goals for the district. We should also connect in the presentations you see, which I think those themes were pretty strong through the folks today. So that is our overall goals throughout the year. You shouldn't have to ask me what the district goals were and whether we're seeing them, right? We should see them when we have our reports, and we should see them in the classrooms. I have started with my classroom, not the individual visits, but classroom visits with the principals. So we started those, have them scheduled out through Christmas. So we're spending, 90 minutes to 2 hours a week in each building. And then our goal is after the new year to pair up multiple administrators, so multiple levels of administrators in buildings and doing the walkthrough, so that we get that kind of cross connection. Can tell you already, seeing great things. Tim mentioned their data one, that we walked into a science class, and that's what it was really about. It was a data lesson. And so it was really, really good activities connecting to what their goals are. So excited. We're really fortunate to have, I think we've had the same, we're fortunate to add Jana, but outside of Jana, we've had the same group together. Even though Matt's in a new role as an AP, I think the team's been here for 5 years. So it is one of the rarities that we have consistency in leadership, and it shows. So
Cool.
that's all I have, other than the Division 22s. I sent them out electronically. We are in compliance. This is the time when we have to say to you guys that we meet their requirements, the Division 22s. It's on our agenda. We have to upload that to the state. I used to fight about the PE minutes, but I no longer do that anymore. We have sent a plan to the state that's been accepted, and we are now in compliance. Any questions from the board?
What do we need to do here?
Yeah, the action, what action are we doing?
We don't need, actually, it's only that I've presented it to you guys. As long as what I sent you and what I have here that'll go in the record is on the record, then we send that link in the minutes to the state, and that's it. You don't actually have to approve it. I mean, you can have discussion, more dialogue, ask questions, 100%, all that's great, but it's that I've actually presented it to you guys and given the report that we're in compliance, and there's no other requirement.
I think
Other than me doing some paperwork online.
I think it's nice that it isn't prolonged over the PE minutes, and that we can just be done with it.
Yes. Yeah.
We've been beaten
I
down.
had occasional rants. I actually was a small story, in the superintendent's meeting the other day, and I had a short rant, and Joel Hoff from Kirk County said, I so appreciate Kirk's rants, and then Shay Michelson said, well, just wait, we're not even into the spring yet. They'll get really good then. So I guess I'm getting a little bit of reputation on some of the things with the state of Oregon.
How did we get the PE part into
So
compliance?
the standards, you can embed them into other instructional time. And so they're like students able to follow directions. Right? I mean, they're pretty basic standards. And so
What?
Jones team, this is not to go on, I'll just tell the story. Jones team goes, I think we can meet these without. So they did an evaluation of their PE teacher, Ashley, took them and looked across the curriculum and said, well, here's all the places we meet. So here's how many minutes. I sent that to the state to go, what are you doing? What are you talking about? You're just exaggerating to be a smart aleck. There's no way you guys are having that many minutes. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I sent it to our licensed PE teacher. They sent it to me. I'm not making it up. This is if you want me to forward you the email directly, I can do that. So once we actually documented what we actually did, they questioned that you're not actually doing that. You're just making it up.
They come down here and prove us wrong.
Well,
Like, I don't
I invited
understand,
them.
like,
They don't-
I invited them. Anyway, I'm done ranting about PE.
And
Getting a
the
little
music
piece-
teacher, PE teacher have joined forces
Yeah.
to bring more PE with standards within the music.
Yeah, music and movement, and anyway, so
Wow.
Wow.
now we're fighting about,
They want you to stop this.
Well, that's the whole point. It's silliness, and that was my point. Actually, Jeff, I think was in on the call when I made the call to them. And I'm like, we have place-based learning, we hike the mountain, we have kids on mountain bikes, we're more active than most communities ever.
Yes.
And yet you're questioning our PE minutes in elementary school. I don't know what to say to this conversation. Anyway.
But they didn't have very good answers.
No, they didn't, but I spent, honestly, sometimes your philosophical problems, you need to, it was a life lesson for me, just get over it. Because I spent a lot of hours on it for no really, they didn't care, basically, I wasn't gonna change their mind. So should have just figured it out that we were in compliance and move forward and not have my philosophical rant that PE is the only thing we have mandatory minutes in the state of Oregon.
I mean, if you want a fight, go to state testing.
Yeah,
See
well,
how
that's
that goes.
coming. It's-
Okay.
I'm working on that one right now. I had conversations at the equity conference about state testing.
Oh, goody.
We're, that's, that one, and, well, anyway, yes, so that was my rant.
So,
Division 22s, we're in compliance,
great, and we acknowledge we've all received it,
yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Right here.
There it is.
Well, I really appreciate it, having been a past elementary school PE teacher. I'm so glad that we are hitting the mark on that.
Yes. Finally, I will share that we had probably 120 people at our open house, which was a really broad cross-section of retired folks and families with younger kids and families with kids that weren't in elementary school anymore, that just didn't see it. Really, I thought a really good tour, good questions being asked, got to showcase the building so much so that we might pick another date and do it again. Here, just because there were a lot of folks, and Wednesdays, I think sometimes can be challenging for people, so we are gonna look at maybe another date down the road. Of doing it in October so that we can see if we pick up any stragglers. It was positive enough that, I think I could give up another hour of my evening to get some more people through the building. It's just a great building to bring people.
It's a great building.
It really is, to show what our community has supported for our kids. It was a fun night to do some Q&A and meet people and talk about our programming. So,
I mean, homecoming's next week, right?
yeah.
Well, you're gonna have all those people there for a football game,
Yeah.
right?
That might be the best.
Just throwing it out there. Just say, look,
I mean, it'll be.
I mean, we're showing off at this point, right? So,
So I will be picking a date. We'll send it out to you guys as well. We'll put it in the letter to the editor so that it gets out that way. That might be the date. We'll look at that. I mean, that's not a bad idea with the home football game. So we'll do one more and then probably put it to bed for the year. So, but it is exciting, and it is a kind of pride point because the building turned out really well. So we're really excited about it. So, that's it for me.
Best part of the night was, I had a bet with Reagan Roberts, that there would be more than 100 people there. She owes me a beer.
Never bet anything with Reagan. That's awesome.
okay. Anyone else have any questions about Division 22? No? Okay, consent agenda. Regular board meeting minutes, new hire, Carrie Campbell, SES sped teacher. New hire, Chance Scott O'Connor, SES teacher, adoption of consent agenda.
Why were they temporary?
Because we hired them after the start of the year. So contractually, because of the hiring season, anybody that we hire after the year's already started, it's not a full contract year.
Okay.
We make them a temporary person and we open the job up in the spring. They're welcome to reapply. It's really like a year-long job interview for them because of where we are in the hiring season. So.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, announcements, November 6th, regular board meeting, November 20th, work session. Everyone good for that? All right. Meeting adjourned then. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. Oh. Yes,
We are.
that's for a work session. That's not a board meeting. That's a work session. Yes. This thing says the card is full. Oh, no.
If you.